Hi, everybody. I'm Wally Kennedy. Liz Starr is on assignment. You know, you can't turn on a talk show anywhere in America without hearing about the charges brought by this man, Stephen Cook, against the Roman Catholic Cardinal of Chicago, Joseph Bernardin. Cook's memories of alleged sexual abuse came up, he says, in therapy. Now, the question this morning is, how reliable are those memories, and should resurrected memories stand up in court? We begin with the story of a woman who recently settled a lawsuit against her therapist. Laura Passley met with Liz and explained how she became convinced she was sexually abused by her mother.
He would have me close my eyes and then go back into my childhood from the second visit on. Any thought, any image, any idea, any nightmare, anything that went off in my head, he said was reality.
Laura Passley didn't have a perfect childhood growing up in the middle of 5 kids in Texas in the late 1950s. But it was also not the nightmare she was convinced to believe it was by 2 therapists who treated her for 4 years.
Okay. I had sexual abuse. First it started with molestation, simple molestation in the bathtub when Mama was bathing me or with my older brother.
These are memories.
Right. These were flashbacks and things coming up in therapy. They're not real. I know that now.
She was 32 and working as a civilian at a big city police department when she first sought treatment for a bad eating disorder. Although she'd been a slender child, starting at age 10, she became bulimic. By her early 30s, her life was out of control.
I mean, I'm binging, purging 15, 20 times a day, so that's what took me in, the desperation of wanting to get rid of that.
When did you start to get into looking at your past?
We went to work on my memories. I did tell him I had been sexually molested when I was 9 at a swimming pool by a stranger. And he said that wasn't repressed, wasn't deep enough. I just totally discounted that sexual abuse. He told me...
As a reason for becoming...
As anything in my life. Anything that I knew already, he said, he just discounted it. He said we had to go deeper, had to be buried. For me to have a death wish, to the magnitude that I had to be something really repressed that was traumatic or bad, and we went to work on memories.
How many times a week did you see this man?
Started out once a week, and then twice a week, and then 3 times a week, and then twice a week in group, and then twice a week in group on Saturdays.
Her first significant flashback happened while she was awake and involved her older brother.
And this boy was smothering an infant. And the age correlation would have been the same as my brother and I.
And when she phoned her therapist with this unsettling image...
He walked me through it. He put me to sleep on the phone with hypnosis. And then I went to see him the next day. He spent the entire hour badgering me. When are you going to accept the fact that your brother tried to kill you?
What was your relationship like with your brother?
I felt distant from him, as did I with my mother. The ones that the memories came up on were the people that I was angry at or really had a hard time relationship-wise with them.
Later, she would experience mental impressions of her mother abusing her.
I believed she had sexually molested me and tortured me as a child. Then it escalated on to my grandfather. It eventually wound up with him murdering somebody. And every time I would say it didn't happen, he would tell me I was in denial or I was running.
Laura never told her brother or mother what she for years believed they did to her.
They didn't know what was going on in my head. He wouldn't let me accuse her of the actual sexual torture because he said she would kill me.
In this family vacation photo, Laura is the little one, and this is the age when she was supposed to be suffering constant abuse, according to her therapist. She sees no stress in that image, but she sees plenty in this picture. Taken while in the midst of this treatment program, her eyes glazed from prescription depressants, which she was overusing.
It's anything to get away from the mental torture that you're in during that therapy, so I was taking Xanax constantly. My whole life revolved around this therapy.
What concerned her the most was what she saw happening in her group therapy. Eventually, each woman in the group dredged up her own individual memories of childhood abuse.
I watched him implant memories. I also watched as systematically all of the women in my group became satanic ritual abuse victims. Right before my eyes, it just escalated from eating disorders to that.
In other words, you believe that this therapist guided everybody into imagining that individually Satanic cults had gotten to each of them?
Yes, I watched it go on.
In 1989, Laura left therapy, and for 2 more years, till 1991, she continued to assume her therapist must have been correct about her memories. Then she happened on a magazine article that changed her life.
What broke for me was reading a magazine about a parent. These parents were in there. They had been accused of Satanism. Their daughter had accused them of aborting her child, of killing her 3-year-old, of impregnating her, satanic rituals, all of this. And I had been in group with their daughter. I had heard this stuff for years, okay? And I'm looking at what she said as opposed to what was in this article. I sought those people out and met them, and even when I met them, I was scared to death of them. Because, I mean, you're hearing all this stuff. And he's a preacher, and she's a Bible teacher. A little bit fundamentalist and a little bit real religious, but not Satanist. They prayed to the same God that I prayed to, and it was a real eye-opener. So I started piecing things together.
After that encounter, she sought out another therapist for a second opinion on the meaning of those frightening memories.
These flashbacks were real. I felt everything in them. I felt the sexual abuse, the memories, you know, the whole thing. I felt this going on when it was happening, and it was real. And he said, real, honey, but not reality. And when he said that, it was like a big slap in the face. It was like this cold water hit me. And, you know, it was real, but it wasn't reality. And so I had to really start doing some critical thinking. Then I started digging and looking, trying to find out what happened in my case.
Well, what happened is Laura hired a lawyer. This year she was awarded damages from both a licensed counselor and a psychiatrist. As a condition of the settlement, she can't name them or say how much money she recovered.